Now, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS. Rusty mentioned that that's the glue that holds a lot of HIV funding together, and that's very, very true. There are several different types of HOPWA funding that are available, and it includes formula funding, competitive funding, and technical assistance funding. Now, the formula funding I'll get into a little more later. The competitive funding, I'll show you some of our projects that we have. And then the technical assistance, I'd like to add that Dr. Bennett here provides some technical assistance through HOPWA in the Southeast, which is great. So these are some of the things that HOPWA funding can be used for. Everything from housing, social services, program planning, development costs, acquisition, rehabilitation, and on and on. So this is a very flexible federal funding that's available for persons living with HIV. It can also fund mental health services, chemical dependency treatment, nutritional services, and so on. But I will add that HUD doesn't want to see this money being spent frivolously. They want the H in HUD to stand for housing. So while all of these kinds of services can be provided, it's within the context of supportive service for housing programs. But let's talk about the formula. The formula dollars are the biggest amount. Thus far, we're looking at about $335 million a year that's put into HOPWA, and about 90% of it goes to the formula funding. It can go to low-income HIV-positive persons for either tenant-based rental assistance or project-based rental assistance. So that means tenant could move around and still utilize the service, or it can be a particular housing project that persons use the supportive service and assistance from. As I mentioned, it's based on action plans that are approved by your city or your state consolidated plans, and we actually have 3 years to utilize this funding. So it allows you to plan a little bit. You don't have to use it all up in 1 year, as most federal funding is required. Probably the piece of HOPWA that's used most often across the country and in the South would be the short-term emergency assistance. This particular funding can be used for up to 21 weeks to prevent homelessness. Now, it can also provide long-term tenant-based rental assistance, which is called TBRA. But I will say that that does use up a good bit more of the money, and so a lot of jurisdictions choose not to provide TBRA. Personally, I think a good mix is healthy because there are some folks that need the constant assistance, and the emergency assistance is just not enough for them. And every state is different. As you can imagine, the federal government likes to leave a lot of the decision-making to local areas. But I'm very proud of the fact that because Alabama has a really good partnership among its 10 AIDS service organizations, we have divided up the state, and in all 67 counties of Alabama, you can get assistance. If you're low income, HIV positive, we're there to help you. So whether you live in Pineapple, Alabama or Birmingham, Alabama, you can get assistance through the HOPWA rental assistance programs. That's not the case in many states. In some states, when you get outside of the metropolitan area, there's not much available in the rural areas. And as I mentioned, some states don't offer any long-term at all. So it would behoove you to find out who runs your HOPWA program, which kinds of services they're providing, and possibly do some advocacy around trying to get other items added to the plate as far as what they spend HOPWA on.